Or let's test it out. So I want you to see what we actually did so far. So let's save this. Let's go to our browser, refresh, and here's my Levi's jeans. Click on the details. So we corrected our title, which is good. Here's the details. We added the price, the brand, and here's the quantity, right? So I can enter the quantity and then the size. Obviously we need to adjust the spacing of this as well. Okay, and here's my drop down and the three sizes that I just entered, which is 28, 32, 36. And the reason why the first option value was left blank is because you don't want any value displayed in this particular field when the user clicks on the drop down arrow. So the only values that you see are these three values. All right, great. Let's close this. Let's go to our code. All right, great. So let's remove the extra line here. Okay, so here's my div for my form group. Select div. Here's my form that ends. So this is the entire form that I created so far. And right after the form, let's specify my divs here. 1, 2, 3, and let's say fourth div. And then do a div class. So here's my div class. And here I'm going to create the footer. So I'm going to call it modal footer. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's a good idea to design and make sure you have everything within your modal. And here is where our buttons go. So I'm going to create a button class, and I'm going to call it btn, put a default button, and use my data dismiss, and call it modal, and then close. The next button is going to be for the warning here, for instance. So I'm going to say button btn warning, and then the type is going to be submit, and also specify the span as well. So here the span is going to be the span class equals GLY, and you can use these any others as well. Okay, so I'm going to use the Glyphicon GLY PHICON, and then the shopping cart. You can use again others as well. And then right after the shopping cart, close my span tag, and then right after the span, I'm going to say add to cart, and then close our button. All right, great. So far we created the two buttons. Let's scroll up, recap our code. First, we created the modal itself. On the top, specify the location of our title, image, some text of the image, prices, and then created the actual form within this entire form tag for the user, included the sizes, and then finally the two buttons that we created. I'm going to enter another break here, okay, because we had that two fields joined together when we saw the modal pop up earlier. So I'm going to use the BR tag again and just quickly fix this. All right, great. So just a couple of tags, BR tags that I'm going to create. If I can get this right. All right, great. Save this. Let's test it out. Refresh. Click on the details button for our featured products, Levi's jeans. And this time things are looking pretty nice so far. The quantity is there, the size is there. There's still some problem here because I want to make sure that the quantity and size are aligned properly, right? But we have our two buttons. We have our close button and the add to cart button. Great. So let's do this alignment here. To do this, let's go back to our code. Before we actually go to the CSS, I'm gonna maybe enter another break here and test it out. Save it. Let's refresh. Bring up our modal. All right, great. So good. We have a break between the quantity and size. Now all I have to do is just use some CSS to bring the quantity and the field to the left. Okay, so it's aligned properly with this column. Great. Close this. Go to our code. Let's go to our main CSS and specify a selector here, for example. quantity and give it a left margin left, and maybe negative, let's say 25 or 20 pixels. Let's do 20 first. Maybe do 25. Let's see. And then for my next selector, which is the quantity dash label, I'm going to give this a left margin. Of course, it's margin left and about the same, 25, 25. Great. Let's save this. Let's go to our browser, reload, click on details for Levi's product, and it seems like the quantity is, the size seems to be aligned, but the quantity is not. So let's fix this. Go back. Let's change this to, let's say, 20, and the label to 20 pixels as well. Go back, refresh, and you do back and forth, right? So this time it's aligned right, but it's still a little bit off, right? I don't see it fully aligned. And let's see why. So let's go back to our code. All right, so let's reduce this a little bit more. So let's change it to, let's say, minus 18. 18, save it, refresh, and this time it's a little bit off, and you can play with it. Okay, we can always refer back to the details column and see the exact width, but if you quickly go and change it to, let's say, 16 for quantity and 16 for the label, it should pretty much solve our thing. Okay, so yes, perfect. So looking good. So we have our modal created for our Levi's product, details, price, couple of buttons, the add to cart, and then the close, and then of course our drop down for our various sizes, and users can add or enter the value of the quantity. All right, so once we have our modal pop-up created, we have to repeat the same code for the rest of the products. Okay, so let me close this. So for instance, for the football, watch, shirts, shoes, and so on, we need to repeat the code. So let's go back to our code, expand this. So this entire code that we created, smaller, just simply copy it and then go to your other product, for example, football, and paste it. Okay, the only thing you need to do obviously is make minor changes to this code. For example, our details ID will be changed from 1 to 2, or whichever ID we used for the football within our index.php. So if I go to index.php, here are our IDs, for instance, for our products that we created earlier. So for headband, it's details-8. For my football, let me scroll up and find my football product. Here it is. So the details is details-2. Okay, so make sure we specify details-2 for my football. So this is going to be changed from 1 to 2, and then of course all of these are going to be changed, and this is also going to be changed to 2. So likewise, you can follow the same process for the rest of the products. So just change the IDs, and of course you must change the text also, the image also. Okay, and as a practice, you can do this for yourself. So just change the title and so on, so you get the idea. So just follow the first Levi's jeans code that I created and simply change the code for all of these products, and you'll notice once you're done, when you go back to your site and click on details for each of the products, you'll get a list. So I hope this helps. Practice, and let's move to our next lesson.